Welcome to Southern Ghost Stories. My name is Alan Searcy. I'm the American Historian. Joined here, my buddy Lonesome Lee Bogan here in the historic Richland Building in Portland, Tennessee. This is Southern Ghost Stories. You ready to rock and roll, Lee?
I'm ready, buddy.
All right, so last week we talked about some Sumner County ghost stories, and I kind of figured we just kind of stay in that lane, and there's a lot of material up here in Sumner County. What do you think, Lee?
I agree. There's stories. A lot of people have stories. I have just a couple that we mentioned last week's show.
Yeah. So I figured we'd stay here in Portland, right here close to home. So something I learned years ago, everybody has a ghost story, and I write books about ghost stories, and it's kind of like I'm Ghostbusters. I'm ready to believe you. Remember the old commercials they aired during the movies? A lot of folks are kind of skittish about ghost stories. They don't really talk about the stuff around their friends and family, but they see somebody who writes ghost stories and won't think they're crazy. They're going to come tell you the ghost story. So years ago, I met a lady down on the Gallatin Square, and she's telling me that back in 1924, her grandmother, Donna McCrary, she lived here in Portland, and she had a nightmare, just this horrible dream. She dreamt that in her house, she saw several men walking through her home carrying a small wooden coffin. So it unnerved her. She woke up. She couldn't go back to sleep. She tossed and turned. Well, it just stuck with her. It really bothered her. Well, she was raising her 14-year-old mentally challenged sister, Kate. She had some mental problems, and her mother and father passed away, so she took on that responsibility of taking care of her sister. Well, 2 weeks after that dream, Donna was making supper, and she asked Kate, hey, would you mind walking to the store to get some corn? Well, if you know anything about Portland, the railroad runs through here. Well, Donna, she crossed railroad tracks, and she wasn't paying attention, or Kate crossed railroad tracks, she wasn't paying attention, and she got hit by a train. And they found her crumpled remains lying there by the track shortly thereafter. But when the train whistle blew, Donna instinctively had this vision of that dream and knew something was wrong with her sister. So, and just like that dream she had, the very next day, men were walking through her home carrying a wooden coffin. Yeah, it's wild. So they laid young Kate to rest over at Old Brush Cemetery here in town. And the family was all broke up, and they paid a little bit extra to have this lavish headstone erected there on the grave. So they had this angel there on top of the graves on the headstone, and the inscription there, it says, "We shall miss her here where she played." So, oddly enough, after Kate passed away and they had the burial there, people started to see a little girl sitting on the entrance to the Old Brush Cemetery, and she would kind of just laugh and sing and swing her legs, just sitting there on the entrance. So, if you go over there now to Old Brush Cemetery, her grave is still there. The angel has sadly been broken off. I guess, 2024, it's over, or 1924, it's over 100 years ago. The angel broke off, but the family still has it, and they're just kind of hang on to it. So, but that's not the only ghost story I have here for Portland. So, if you guys are familiar with the Civil War, so around that time, especially like in South Nashville, you had guys like Nathan Bedford Forrest, they were pillaging Union campsites in Brentwood, Franklin. They were making life hell for the Federals all over South Nashville, Murfreesboro, Alabama. Forrest, they called him the devil. Well, up here in Sumner County, you got another guy named John Hunt Morgan. And whereas Forrest would stay and fight you to the death, Morgan was more cerebral. He would take prisoners, they had skirmishes or battles, and he would keep the blue uniforms that the Union soldiers wore. So after a while, he accumulated a whole bunch. Well, he decided to go into Hartsville, where the Union was embedded over there. So late one night, his men forded the river wearing these blue Union uniforms, and the Federals camping out by the fire see these guys coming across the river. Hey, boys, come on over here, you boys in blue. Y'all get warm by the fire. Well, it was a rout. It was one of the biggest victories for the Confederacy in Sumner County. So because of that, the Union sent a guy named Eliezer Payne to Sumner County, to Gallatin, to really just lock the town down. And he was just a horrible, horrible guy. But another reason why they were trying to get Morgan so bad was up here in Portland South Tunnel. I got distracted there. South Tunnel, it was the train line runs through town. The Union used that to get weapons. They used to get materials, all their equipment from up north down into Nashville. They could distribute what they needed. So John Hunt Morgan and his men, they hijacked a train car and they pushed it into the tunnel and they blew it up. And because they did that, it messed up supply lines for months. So with John Hunt Morgan was raising so much hell up here, Payne got sent to Sumner County, as I was saying, just locking down Gallatin. He would, if you were a former soldier, like if you fought in Murfreesboro or Shiloh, whatever, and you came home, if you were wounded, he'd drag you out of your house, they'd hang you, they'd shoot you. He was just a horrible, horrible guy. So they say when Payne got to Gallatin, what he did was he had one wagon that he brought all his goods in. But when he left town, he had 8 wagons of goods. They say his wife would come to town, he'd just take her shopping. And you've been shopping with a woman, Lee, you know how. But see, they wouldn't go to department stores. They would go home to home. They would get in their wagon and just roll down Main Street. If they wanted your china cabinet, they'd get your china cabinet. If they wanted your silver, they'd take your silver. So, but Payne, man, he was just causing problems up here in Sumner County, and Hunt Morgan was the reason why. And we're going to go into that here in a little bit. But Gallatin, I mean, it was the county seat of Sumner County. You had the Cumberland River. You had the railroad running through it. Once Fort Donelson, Fort Henry fell, the Union moved into Nashville, and the mayor of Nashville just gave up without a fight. He didn't want none. He knew he was outnumbered. So once Nashville was locked down, the Union spread out. They took Murfreesboro, Franklin, Gallatin, Springfield, anyway, they had waterways, railroads, the courthouses. They locked them down, to establish, they were in control. So when they got to Gallatin up here, one of the first places they went to was Rose Mont. You ever been to Rose Mont, Lee?
I have, and I don't know. I get a tingle about Rose Mont. I mean, just a little, you know what I mean? The ghostly cold chills just talking about Rose Mont. Well,
Rose Mont, it's built in 1834, and it was home to Josephus Kahn Guild. He was a kind of a minor player behind the scenes. He was buddies with Jackson. He was a Jacksonian Democrat, as most officials were in Tennessee back then. But he built this grand Creole-style Creek Revival plantation home there on Southwater. And when the Union rolled in, they set up a checkpoint there on 109 Southwater. And when they set up the checkpoint, they went inside and got the judge's kitchen table, and set out in the middle of the road. So the lady of the house, Catherine Guild, she saw that, and she was kind of aggravated. They're using her table as her checkpoint. So this old lady stomps outside, and when she gets out there, she's a guy just stabbing his knife into her dinner table, just making like little carvings and putting his name in there. And Judge Gill, the reason why Catherine was in charge, Judge Gill got thrown into prison in Mackinac Island for being a Confederate sympathizer. I think he's there 6 months before he signed the Oath of Allegiance. But yeah, there's a lot of history in Rosemont, and that table, you can still see that table today if you go down to the house. I'll show it to you. It's part of the museum there they have at the house. So it's a 500-acre horse farm, and they say that Jesse James visited Rosemont and bought a horse from Guild.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Jesse James, he was down here quite a bit. His family owned property in East Nashville. And something I learned writing these books, Jesse James, when he would have these big heists out in the Midwest, he would go to Bardstown, Kentucky to lay low. So the reason why he went to Bardstown, his aunt married the jailer in Nelson County.
Okay.
So you would think to look for a bank robber in the jail, and that's where he would go to hide out. But let's take us a break, and we'll get back to some more ghost stories and some more Rosemont here in a minute.
Here's an important message from Portland Natural Gas. Always looking out for your safety. Think you have a gas leak? First, evacuate the area. Don't use matches, electrical switches, flashlights, or telephones. And report it immediately by calling Portland Natural Gas at 325-6776. If you think the leak is serious and a real danger is present, call 911. Portland Natural Gas, looking out for your safety and providing cost-efficient heating and cooling for Portland residents.
McDonald's presents Burger Reviews by Hamburglar. Today's review, the hotter, juicier classic burgers. Hamburglar, the time is yours.
Rubble, rubble.
He said, these are McDonald's best burgers ever. And then, can I keep them? And then he just grabbed them and ran away.
Rubble.
It's your time to run, too. Get your McDonald's favorites. Enjoy this delicious deal. Buy one Big Mac, double cheeseburger, or McDouble, and get another one for $1. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Sumner Regional Medical Center believes that every person has the right to dignity, respect, and compassion as we journey through the cycle of life. That's why they have created High Point Hospice to assure that our loved ones will receive the necessary support to allow us to do so. At High Point Hospice, our team of doctors, nurses, hospice aides, social workers, chaplains, and volunteers will walk by your side, offering support, providing symptom management, and answering questions to bring comfort and peace to you and your loved ones. For more information about High Point Hospice, call 328-6690 or visit them online at highpointhospice.com. That's 328-6690 or visit them online at highpointhospice.com.
WQKR. The Lonesome Lee Bogan Show, previously heard every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock on WQKR, has moved to Fridays. You can hear Lee now talking to music people, talking about songs and songwriting and artists and everything else, and his own career. That's the Lonesome Lee Bogan Show, every Friday morning at 9 o'clock on WQKR, following Good Morning Portland.
All right, so we're back talking more Southern ghost stories. So we were talking about Rose Mont a few minutes ago, and it's one of my favorite historic sites in Gallatin because there's just so much material there, so much history. And so I mentioned, I think, last week, back in like 1870, you didn't go to the doctor. The doctor came to you. So chances are you died in your house. Well, it's been estimated that at Rose Mont, over 30 people died in that historic home down there on 109.
Oh, my.
Yeah. But one of the wildest, weirdest stories I heard, and this came from like family, it's been passed down through the ages. So in 1923, Betty Guild, she was Judge Guild's daughter, she died in the home. Well, she's on her deathbed. She's, feeling terrible. They know the end is near. As she's laying in bed and her family's gathering around, prepare for her to go, this owl flew down through the fireplace, through the chimney, and perched up itself on the bed.
Oh, boy.
And as she drew her last breath, that owl went back into the fireplace, up the chimney, never be seen from again. Ooh. That's some kind of weird omen, but it's a fact. It's something they tell on the tours over there.
Who?
Yeah, Betty Guild, too.
Oh, that's what I wanted to know.
So there's several. I had a caretaker tell me that he thinks there's 3 spirits there at Rose Mont. One's a practical joker. He would tell me his keys would come up missing. I was there one time, and he was kind of moving around like he was looking for something. I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, yesterday I bought these light bulbs. I got to repair the light bulbs in this room over here, and I can't find them." So I went back a week or two later. He told me he never found the light bulbs. He bought some new ones. Well, I think it was like 6 months goes by. He and I are walking around the house, and he was upstairs, and he said, "Come here, I got to show you something." He said, "Remember a few months ago you were here, and I was looking for something, those light bulbs?" I said, Yeah. He said, "You know where I found them? They were upstairs in a bedroom in a dresser drawer." And he placed them downstairs in the director's office, which actually is the room where Betty Guild passed away. So all kinds of weird, wild stuff there. He told me that one morning he came in around 9:15. He walked into his office, and this tall, opaque man just passed right through him.
Oh.
So he'd never seen an apparition before until that day. I had another director tell me that the alarm, it would just go off all the time. So one morning she came in, she turned off the alarm, and as she's turning off the alarm, she's walking over to her desk. She hears a man clearing their throat. She looks around. There's nobody in the house but her. Yeah, really.
Sound effects.
But she would hear footsteps upstairs. The upstairs is a lot of activity. They say there's a gray lady you can spot in a rocking chair from time to time. A buddy of mine, Mark Walsh, he's a paranormal investigator, been doing this since like the 80s and 90s. He saw her, and he showed me a picture he took, because I've been trying to do the same thing. I always try to catch the gray lady. I take pictures of the home anytime I go up there. I did catch something like a live video that looks kind of strange. I may try to put it on the Facebook page for Southern Ghost Stories so you guys can check that out. Another really wild thing happened at Rose Mont. In 2017, we had the solar eclipse. You remember when all that happened?
I do.
So there was someone who took a tour of the house that day during the eclipse. So as they're walking around the house or taking pictures, taking videos, just taking in the history of the home, the guy's wife took a picture of him in the judge's office, which is right there. It's the first right when you walk into the home. And in this picture, there's an old lady, like an old-timey dress and old-timey hair, standing right behind him. But the thing was, there was nobody in the house but them. The director sent that to the local newspaper, and the nursepaper ran it the next week, talking about the ghost stories at Rose Mont. So did you ever see that?
I never saw it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. The nursery upstairs. So Judge Guild, his son, 1-year-old son Willie, died from milk poisoning. They say it happened in the house. Up there in the nursery, they have a rocking chair, they say, that moves back and forth. Well, it's 2019. I was doing a book signing at Rose Mont. I was set up there right below the stairs. And this young lady, she's probably in her early 20s. We talked for a little bit, and she walked upstairs. I guess she went to the nursery. She walked back downstairs. She said, "Hey, I want to ask you something." I said, "Well, what's that?" She's like, "Are there any kids upstairs?" I said, "Not to my knowledge. We just got open." She said, "Well, there's a little boy upstairs under the bed, and he asked me to play hide and seek with him."
I'm loving that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to think about that. But he's probably the world champion of hide and go seek.
Probably so.
Another thing, the director, he told me he would come in the morning, go into the parlor to check things out every morning. And one morning he walked in, and on the table he had some fresh flowers. Well, he's looking at this table, and all the flowers are bunched up in the center of the table, right below the vase there. So had those petals fallen off just kind of randomly, they'd be scattered all around the table. But instead, something kind of swept them up into one neat little pile.
Wow.
Overnight.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, if you're into ghost stories and like the paranormal investigations, you can actually go do ghost hunts at Rose Mont. They have them sporadically through the year. I think you can actually rent the mansion as well if you wanted to go out there. So you have toured the house, right?
As long as you pay, I can go with you.
Well, I've done this for a very long time, and I've never seen a ghost.
Okay.
Lived in a haunted house in South Nashville, saw lots of weird things. Never seen a ghost.
You heard stuff.
Oh, yeah, man. I told you, I lived in a haunted house, and I had a trash can move 8 feet in the middle of the night. Lights would come off and on. TVs turn themselves off and on. But in 2022, I've never seen a ghost until April 22 at Rose Mont.
Ooh, tell us.
So I went up there to visit the director that day, and I walked to the front of the house. I didn't see his car. Okay, he's parked around back. So I walked through the little breezeway, the cut through there on the side of the house. I walked to the back, and I don't see his Jeep. Okay, he's not here. Well, I kind of just glanced over to this reception hall behind the home, behind the garden there, and I see a man in a fedora turned to the side. And I looked again, and the guy's gone. So I got my phone, and I texted the director. I said, "Man, tell me I'm crazy, but there's a man in a fedora back there in the reception hall." He said, "Oh, you saw Squire."
Oh.
Who is Squire?
For real.
So I went back and met with him a couple of days later, and he told me that Squire, I told you, Judge Josephus Con Guild built the home. His grandson was also a judge in town, several decades later. It was like, I guess, a family business. So Squire, whereas his wife loved entertaining the big lavish home, Squire is more of a common man. Even though he was a judge, he liked to go into the garage back there, which is now the reception hall, and piddle with his guitar, or piddle with his car, listen to the radio. He didn't really like being part of the upper crust of society. So I'm just kind of wondering maybe if, now that he's passed on, he wants to stay in that garage and just tinker with his car. I don't really know. But something else the director told me. They had an investigation there one night in the reception area. They're getting all kinds of EVPs or getting the EMF meters going off. They kept picking up on something about a cigarette. So someone lit a cigarette, which, is against house rules. They lit the cigarette and held it there. and the cigarette smoked itself in one drag.
Oh, wow.
That's something I don't.
Now, why can't I catch stuff like that?
Yeah, I've caught weird things in my time as an amateur investigator, but never something where a cigarette smokes itself in one long drag. So another thing, they had a ghost hunt there. They do them all the time, and a buddy of mine went, and he's in early 20s, very naive, good kid, but just super naive. So I was there for the early part of the investigation. I think I walked across the street to the antique store to help out over there. So the next morning, I called him and said, "Hey, man, did you have a good time with the ghost hunt at Rose Mont?" "Oh, yeah, it was so cool. We picked up this, we picked up that. But listen to this. I was in the judge's office, and a gun, like that was propped up against the wall, fell over and brushed my leg." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I was just standing there. They're doing the investigating. This gun, this rifle, just tilted over and hit me in the knee." And so I said, "Oh, okay. Well, did you hear anything in your house last night?" "No." "Did you hear any footsteps around the bed?" "No."
No.
"Did you hear any windows rattling?" "No." "What's going on? What are you talking about?" "Oh, nothing. It's probably just nothing." "Oh, what do you mean?" I'm just asking a question." No, tell me what's going on. What are you getting at?" "Well, sometimes if you're in an investigation and if an object touches you, that's the process of the ghost moving from the house to you. It's kind of known in paranormal circles that now that the ghost is going to be in your house." "What do you mean?" I let him sit in that for like 5 minutes before I told him I was messing with him. He was convinced his house was haunted after talking to me. But I had a good time messing with him. Eventually, I told him that, I was just fooling around. But another thing that happened at Rose Mont, so when I wrote the book Ghost of Gallatin in 2019, which I highly recommend you check out, it's on Amazon.com, I was talking to the director, and he was kind of standoffish about the ghost stories, but he admitted a few things happened. So we're down there in the judge's office, or we're on the front steps near the judge's office. I'm about to leave, and I recorded our whole conversation. And we're talking, and we find out that my last name is Cersei, and his mother's maiden name is Cersei. We kind of figure out how you were related somehow down the line. Well, I had a little boy a few weeks before that, and I was telling him, "Hey, I'm the last on my grandfather's side with the Cersei name, so through my little boy, the name lives on." So that night, I go home, and I'm playing the recording. I'm working on the book, and as I explain that, I just had a little boy, there's a woman's faint voice that says, "Oh, good."
Oh, my
So
word.
I sent him the file on that, and I said, "Hey, I want you to know, you might want to check this out." So he played it, and it's like, "Yeah, man, the hair on my arms is standing up. That's Catherine Guild. She's been captured. They captured her during the solar eclipse. The lady in gray upstairs, but I think I caught Catherine Guild on an audio clip."
Oh, my God.
And now I was using my video recorder on my iPhone. So you don't need all this fancy high-tech stuff they say online. You can do... If you want to do some ghost hunting, you get you an EMF meter, which is like $30 or $40. Get your iPhone. Use your voice memo.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get things pretty much with anything. What do you use when you go ghost hunting?
I use a couple of apps. One of them is called Necrometer, and the other one is called Spirit Talker. And I see people online all the time. They go to cemeteries, and they're either using one or the other of the ones that I have. And they get a lot of stuff that,
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works.
It's, if I can think of the right word, it makes sense to what they're asking. You know what I mean? So...
Yeah, I told you, I've played around with those. I've had some weird stuff happen. But then again, could it be some kid in China that's, listening to your phone and punching buttons? Or I don't really know how it works, but there are times you get things that can't be coincidences.
Well, I want to see or hear words on these apps that are relevant to what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm talking about, hey, when did you die here? And it'll say grocery shopping or something.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Unless you're in a grocery store.
Right, but I wasn't.
Well, I told you, I think I mentioned I was in Franklin, and I was using that same app. It's called the Ghost Radar Legacy, and I was standing outside Clouston Hall, which is a Civil War hospital after the Battle of Franklin, and my phone says Operation. The word Operation appears on the phone, so maybe there's something to it. So we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in a few more minutes to talk about some more Southern ghost stories.
The new 109 Market at 5989 Highway 31W in Portland is now open and under new management, with much, much more than just convenience. They feature delicious plate lunches Monday through Friday with meat, 2 sides, and rolls for just $6.99, plus Perella's Pizza by the slice for just $2.99 or a whole pizza for $10.99 for the meat lovers or pepperoni pizzas. Start the day with breakfast at 109. Choose from sausage, bacon, tenderloin, or steak biscuits, just $2.99. Delicious Chappie's chicken, beer, soft drinks, and more. Fill up your car with gas and kerosene, and both regular and off-road diesel fuel available too. All while you treat yourself to delicious food and snacks at the new 109 Market. Buy lottery tickets also. Great food, fuel, and more. Plus, when you purchase a membership gas card, a portion of every purchase goes to support Portland High School Panthers sports. Convenience and more. Great food all day, every day at the new 109 Market, 5989 Highway 31W north of downtown Portland.
Now you can join Planet Fitness and get the PF Black Card for 0 enrollment, $24.99 a month, and get all the perks.
I love perks.
Do you love having access to 2,000 plus locations?
Yes.
Bringing a friend every time?
Hashtag friend goals.
And recovering with massage chairs?
Who doesn't?
Get the PF Black Card and feel spectacular. 0 enrollment, $24.99 a month. See Club for details.
I have a question for you. Do you like great music? Music from singer-songwriters? Maybe bluegrass, folk, blues, classic country, rockabilly, or even early rock and roll? Then I invite you to a special show called Americana Country. I'm your host, Jay Preston. It's Sunday afternoon, 1 till 4 p.m. We play a whole mess of great music, Americana and roots music, right here on WQKR. Join me, Jay Preston, Sunday afternoons for Americana Country, 1 till 4 p.m. right here on WQKR.
WQKR. Winning just got closer at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs. Join us for food, fun, and excitement soon. Hungry? Iron Steakhouse is there for your special night out. Ready to win? Come play one of our 1,000 games. Watch and wager on your team or horse, too. Featuring an event center and all-suite hotel, the Mint Gaming Hall is so close. The exit is in Tennessee. Check out themintgaming.com for details. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Winning just got closer.
Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm Alan Searcy, my buddy Lonesome Lee Bogan.
Yeah, buddy.
So we're talking about Rose Mont over in Gallatin, Tennessee, and just right across the street, there's an antique shop called Pickled Treats and Antiques. Well, long before that was built, there was an old mansion there called Guildwood. You know, I told you Judge Josephus Kahn Guild built Rose Mont. Well, when his daughter Betty got married, he built this big lavish mansion right across the street from his house for his little girl. Well, the house changed hands several times. Betty passed away, like I told you. Once she got older, she actually moved into her dad's house. But the James family lived there from 1902. Sam James is a retailer in town. He died in the house in 1967. So in the 1970s, they tore the house down. That's when they started, a few years later, they built the site that became the antique store. Well, shortly after the antique store opened, a medium came in the store, and she told the owner that, hey, there's a man, he's a smaller man, he's wearing old-timey clothes, he's kind of walking around the store. So she asked him what his name was, and the guy told her his name was James. And I told you that Sam James was the guy who lived there. Well, he asked the medium not to make him leave. He wanted to stay there in their shop. And he asked the medium to tell the owner, hey, think of something to give me a job to do here in the store. If I'm going to stay here, I want to make it worth your while. So the owner, clerks, they talked about, hey, what job can we give this ghost? And really, he can't really sleep up in the evenings. They said, hey, just kind of watch over the place and make sure we're taken care of. So that's what they asked, and that's what he agreed to do. So they would come in the morning and say, good morning, James, and they leave. Hey, good night, James, you're in charge. The owner told me that one day she got a call, like before 7 o'clock in the morning, someone lived in the neighborhood called and said, hey, your front door is wide open. You've been broken into. She rushed to the antique shop. The front door is wide open. Nothing was touched.
Wow.
The safe wasn't bothered. No merchandise is missing. Everything was just like it was the night before she left. So the front door is open. So she walked in the middle of the store and looked up and said, "Thank you, James."
Oh, wow. Thank you, James.
But James, I mean, he is like the guardian, but he also likes to hide things. The owner told me, like, shortly after that, she had some money and it went missing. And she started walking around the store trying to figure out, hey, did I misplace this? I put it here, did I put it there? Is it in my purse? A couple hours goes by. She walks over to the back part of the store. She finds the bills fanned out on the floor, like something was just messing with her. Yeah. And it happens today with the new owner. Shauna is the owner. She's a good friend of mine. And if you want to go to her, she'll be happy to kind of show you around and tell you the ghost stories. But she sent me a picture one day. When it came into work, and I think there's 4 or 5 purses laying in the middle of the sales floor, just kind of all lined up all in a row. And, you know, those weren't there the night before when she left. But Shauna tells me she hears things. There's like an old Victrola playing in the back part of the shop, and there's no record player back there. She's heard old telephones rings. Her and one of her real good friends, so they came in one day and they were working, they heard like glass breaking, like a vase or a mirror, something shattered. They walked back to the back and there's nothing broken. Well, they do investigations. They also rent the shop out. Like if you wanted to investigate pickled treats and antiques, reach out to them on Facebook. Shauna, I know she rents it out to groups fairly regularly, and her rates are pretty affordable. You know, it's extra income for her, and it's something kind of fun that, you know, if you want to go investigate, you're liable to get something. So one night we had a joint investigation at Rose Mont as well as Pickled Treats. So I was at Rose Mont, but I broke away. I went to Pickled Treats. I was signing some books they sell in the shop. And we come to find out the lady who was in charge of the ghost hunting or the investigating at Pickled Treats had left. So Sean asked me, hey, would you mind taking over and showing these people around and doing the ghost hunt? And I said, sure, why not? So I didn't have nothing but an EMF meter because I wasn't really prepared to be there that night. So if you're familiar with the EMF meter, right, Lee?
Absolutely.
So those things, they register like anomalies in electromagnetic fields and stuff like that.
EMF.
Yeah. So if you like walk over to a power outlet and hold it up, it's going to spike to red. So you can walk around a haunted house and it might spike to red, but occasionally it's going to be, you know, a power line or a light switch, something's going to trigger it. But they say they can pick up on energy, and that's what the spirits are. So went to the back of the shop where they said they've heard the Victrola playing and the glass breaking. And it was me, there was a little boy, and there was, I think, 3 or 4 ladies in their early 30s, and all of them were very attractive women. So we're back there, we're trying to get the thing going. I have the EMF meter in my hand. Hey, James, are you here? Would you like to make contact with us? Nothing. I give it to the little boy. Nothing. That little boy hands it to one of the pretty ladies. It spikes to red.
Oh.
She hands it back to the little boy. Goes back to green. The little boy handed it back to the lady. Goes to red. She handed it to her friend. It went to red. The other pretty lady got it. It was red. They handed it to me. Back to green.
So it's about the females.
Well, evidently James is a ladies' man. That's what I picked
obvious.
up. Yeah, and that's really wild. And so, Shauna, one of her main things she had there in the house, her shop, there was a dollhouse her husband built. They had there for sale, and they had it for years. And she kind of started picking up after a while, like whatever's there, like to play with the furniture and the things in the dollhouse. Like you come in one day and the chair in the little living room be moved over to the bedroom, and just little subtle things. So she told me that, and like I went in one day and there's these little garden gnomes by the front door. I put them up on the bed. Well, the next morning she comes in, they've been knocked off into the floor. So James didn't like me messing around with his dollhouse. So in March 22, someone came to the dollhouse and they bought it. So what do you think is going to happen next?
Nah, you tell me.
So Shauna told me that she made an agreement, the lady, she bought it, but she couldn't, there's no room in her car. She'll have to come back the next day and get it. So Shauna walked out in the middle of the store and said, hey, James, I got to tell you something. I sold the dollhouse, but I'm going to get you another one. I just want you to know that, you know, I know this is your place, and I respect you, and I'm going to make sure we get you another dollhouse here as quick as I can. So the next day, that lady came and got the dollhouse. Well, the next morning, she put all the furniture in a bag, put it on a cabinet. Next morning, that bag with the furniture in it was in the floor.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So, but she got him a new she calls it a condo. It's a smaller dollhouse, but there's another dollhouse there now kept just for James. I mean, I guess you could probably go buy it if you wanted to, but Yeah, I don't think I'd want to buy a dollhouse that knew a ghost was playing in.
Alan, in my opinion, ghost hunting and ghost stories is kind of like, in a way, like wrestling for the naysayers. Okay, well, that's fake. That's not real. Well, I dare you to go try it. You know, if you don't believe, go ghost hunting just one time at a real haunted place, or get in the ring with a wrestler, and you're gonna believe.
So, what's the wildest thing you've ever encountered on your adventures ghost hunting?
I think I mentioned it last week. I was at a hotel. I can't remember where I was. It was out of town somewhere, like Iowa or something like that. I don't remember exactly the town. But I was told it was haunted, and the third floor was the most active. So I took my iPhone, which was fairly new, never had a problem with it. Went up there, started asking questions, and didn't hear anything really. And then all of a sudden, I remembered you don't really hear it until you play it back. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So I said, let me play this back and see if there's anything on there. I never heard anything on that phone again. The volume was gone. I didn't drop the phone. I didn't drop it in water or whatever it is that makes them quit working. If they broke my phone.
Yeah, I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and it was a house that belonged to it was James K. Polk's brother-in-law. He was our 10th, 11th president. His wife grew up in Murfreesboro. But we were in this room where, it was built in the 1800s, and he had this device called a geoport. Supposedly it scans radio waves. I guess it's like a spirit box, but on a much bigger scale. And we're standing there in the dark, and I said, what color is Mark's shirt? And he's wearing a black shirt. And as clear as day, this device goes black. So, I think I mentioned last week I was in Springhaven doing some ghost hunting. And a question I like to do, like a baseline question, because you can go in there like a geoport spirit box. You can ask a lot of stuff. Something I found that always gets a response is, who is the president of the United States?
Uh-huh.
In Springhaven, I heard Lincoln as clear as day.
Wow.
Another funny story pertaining to something like that, in Spring Hill, which is a little bit south of Franklin, Tennessee, there's a mansion called Ripa Villa. And this investigator told me they were doing this investigation in this, I think it was an old church house or schoolhouse behind the property that was all the African Americans would go to. So they're getting a lot of blips on their EMF meter. They're getting signs something is there. So they get out the spirit box and they said, do you know, this is when Barack Obama was president, they said, do you know that a black man is president? And out of the geoport, it goes, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I can't say the word on air.
I understand, but I know exactly what word you're saying.
But back then, though, that would be, in the 1860s, you tell someone an African American be president, that's there's no way to them.
No number two.
Yeah, the ghost there got tickled that the fact there was an African American in charge of our country,
and he apparently had his opinion about it.
Yeah, that's you just never know what you're gonna get doing these ghost huntings. Or the investigations. I've done so many, and they all kind of run together. We did one in Springfield, Tennessee years ago, and they have, if you go in the Robertson County Museum in Springfield, Tennessee, and downstairs they have this World War II exhibit, and they have like actual Nazi flags and Nazi propaganda, which I think is outlawed, but they have it there in the museum for you to see. And when they were doing the geoport and the spirit box stuff, they were getting words, but they weren't getting English. They were getting German words. They were getting German cuss words.
Oh.
So you can imagine, and like no one knew what it was saying, but one of the guys in the investigation who was like there as a guest said, hey, my grandmother's German. And he was trying to, here, play it back. He's like, oh, that's a German slur. So I'm not sure if there's a German spirit attached to some of that stuff there, but that was just really wild that that's what they got. And also that night, we picked up, there was a woman there. And if you know anything about the old Robertson County Museum, it was, long before it was a museum, and it was built to be a post office. But before it was a post office, it was an old hotel, boarding house. But the city or state took it over and made it into an insane asylum. So they tore down the asylum to build the post office, which later became the museum. But they say that the post office had one of the first ladies postmaster in Tennessee. And the ghost we picked up on was a woman, and, of course, she was fond of talking to the females. She didn't really want to talk to the men, which is kind of neat. But, yeah, there's so many wild things you can do.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about the guys that do the spirit box sessions, like Steve Huff and those guys?
Well, it's like the Geoport. Sometimes if you want to hear something, you're going to hear something. And I was in a historic site with a guy who's been on TV a few years ago that most people would know. And we're getting stuff on the spirit box. He's saying, oh, it's saying this. And I'm like, man,
Didn't hear that.
I did not. You're getting static, pal.
Mm-hmm.
And like later that night, I went home and I listened to the recording. And it was just static. Occasionally blips of something from the radio. But like in his defense, sometimes when you're on these ghost hunts, you got to make it entertaining for your guests.
Right, of course.
I mean, I don't want to give false information, but he's probably trying to make it entertaining. Oh, did you hear that? Did it say that? So you're making them think. You're not really coming out and saying, oh, I definitely heard it said, hello, Joe, or whatever. But they got to make it entertaining. And I've done ghost hunts where we're not getting anything.
Of course.
And I'm doing my best to make it entertaining, but there's only so much you can do. If a ghost don't want to talk to you, you're going to sit there in the dark for 8 hours.
Right.
But I have done some where I've seen people get smacked in the arm. Mm-hmm. Literally right in front of me.
Yeah. Steve Huff, and there's this other kid, I can't think of his name at the moment, but as soon as like a celebrity passes away, like this guy just did Hulk Hogan, he did Ozzy.
Where's the Hulkster hang out in the afterlife?
I really don't know, but it had voices coming through, and what they do apparently is they use that person's voice, run it backwards. And so, and this is the way they explain it. So they can use the energy from the electronics or whatever, and these real words come through. And
brother,
it had. Let me tell you something, brother. So it had Ozzy talking and Hulk talking, and I have a hard time with that, but.
Yeah, and it's so. I mean, I know people in that world, and I had someone tell me one time they had a producer tell them, hey, if you're upstairs and something were to happen, it might be best if you were to react this way. So I'm not saying all the shows are fake, but it's like I said, it's entertainment at the end of the day.
Of course.
And they want the audience to be entertained. And if you're sitting in a room for 2 or 3 hours, you're getting nothing, that is not very entertaining.
Exactly.
You can play off the personalities on camera, but they're there to watch a ghost hunting show.
That's right.
If you're not getting a ghost, and what good are you?
Like, I get aggravated at Ghost Adventures. I want to watch it, but I never really see anything.
Yeah, I don't really I write all these books. I've written over 40 books. I try to stay independent. The only shows I ever watched were what's the one with Jason Hawes and Grant, one of the first ones, Ghost Hunters? 05. This is a long time ago.
I've almost got it. Taps.
Yeah, that was the crew, yeah. But that was the only show I really watched, and I actually got to hang out. I was a guest at an event in Wisconsin this past year, and I got to hang out with him, and it's funny. My background is, I'm not sure if anybody knows this, I used to manage UFC fighters. I was around the UFC and MMA for years. That was kind of my thing.
Wow.
Well, Jason's an old kickboxer.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. Like, I was talking to someone at a table next to his about a UFC that night or something, or a guy who I've worked with who's in the UFC or Bellator or whatever. And he said, what are you guys talking about? It's funny that, this guy who's like known as a ghost hunter was an amateur kickboxer. And it's funny, like these events, these guys, if you go to an event, find out what the ghost hunter's like, and don't talk about ghosts. Talk about something they like kickboxing. Me and Jason kind of hit it off because he loves MMA and the fighting.
Right. Well, hey, let's go to break, and we'll come back with our last segment. We're talking to Alan Searcy, Southern Ghost Stories. We'll be right back. Don't you go nowhere.
WQKR. Sumner Regional Medical Center believes that every person has the right to dignity, respect, and compassion as we journey through the cycle of life. That's why they have created High Point Hospice, to assure that our loved ones will receive the necessary support to allow us to do so. At High Point Hospice, our team of doctors, nurses, hospice aides, social workers, chaplains, and volunteers will walk by your side, offering support, providing symptom management, and answering questions to bring comfort and peace to you and your loved ones. For more information about High Point Hospice, call 328-6690 or visit them online at highpointhospice.com. That's 328-6690, or visit them online at highpointhospice.com.
Captain Liquor and Wine.
That's right. Captain Liquor and Wine has what you need when you need it, with the best prices in town. Not only do they have the best in liquor and wine, they also now sell your favorite cigarettes. And don't forget their Captain Cuddy Bang Bags to get your night started from $9.99 to $15. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., and with extended hours on Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. More reasons to head to Captain Liquor and Wine, located at 210 South Broadway, right here in Portland.
Hey, join me, Kenny Mann, right here on the Q for the Man Show every Saturday night. You don't want to miss it. I have a time machine.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I did build a time machine out of a DeLorean, and all I've got to do is get you in it.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. It's every Saturday night right here on the Q.
Oh my. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Volunteer State Bank is now Volunteer Bank. We're proud to introduce a new look for a name you've trusted for 48 years. This change reflects our deep roots in Middle Tennessee and our commitment to the place that we call home. It's how we're evolving to better serve you while staying true to the values that built us. Whatever your next step may be, we volunteer to help you take it. Volunteer Bank, the home state advantage. Learn more at volunteer.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We're back.
All right, more Southern ghost stories. So, I've been talking about Gallatin and ghost stories and all wild, weird things that happen up there. But one of my favorite stories from Gallatin, it's not really a ghost story, but it kind of ties into one. So, after the Civil War, during the Civil War, there was a guy named Sherman Merrill. He was a chaplain for the 177th New York Infantry. Well, Sherman, after the war, he went back home to North Adams, Massachusetts, which is, I guess, closer to Albany, New York than Boston. Well, he went back home to his wife Cordelia and his 9 children. He was a 39-year-old man, and he was ministering to a church there in North Adams. Well, eventually he kind of wanders over into New York State, and he starts ministering to children. Well, one of the children he ministers to is a 16-year-old girl, and Sherman falls in love with her. He decides he's going to make a plan, and they're going to elope and run away together. Well, fortunately, this is back in June 1867, that little girl's brother found out about all this and told her dad. And her dad squashed the whole thing. But Sherman doesn't know what has happened. He leaves his wife and his children, and he goes to Albany, New York, and waits at the steamboat port. He waits, and he waits, and he waits some more. After a couple of days, he realizes, this young lady's not coming. So he goes back home to his family. I told you he's got a wife and 9 kids. So Sherman walks in the front door. Kids look up. They see this guy who had left home a couple of days before with a long, bushy beard and a thick head of hair. He's now bald and clean-shaven. That's a red flag right there, wouldn't you think, Lee?
Yes, buddy.
So word gets around. Someone ratted him out, and they wrote a letter in one of the local newspapers. Well, Sherman, he doesn't deny it, but he comes clean and says, hey, the stuff of the young lady is not true, but, I was trying to disappear so my family gets some insurance money. Well, a little bit later, he goes and he takes some of his kids fishing. He falls out of the boat, and he drifts off. The kids are over, Dad, get back in the boat. And he just floats on away. Kids, I can't swim, save yourselves. Well, 2 weeks later, his wife gets a letter from someone in Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Cordelia, Sherman's up here in Detroit. What's going on? So, again, Sherman goes back to Massachusetts in disgrace. And he comes clean. Yeah, I tried to stage my own death, need insurance money. The church don't pay me enough. So, the church kicks him out. They expel him. Well, those crazy folks in North Adams send him a whole bunch of money. They feel sorry for him. So Sherman, he moves. He goes to the Midwest. He goes to Iowa for a little while. Goes to Cincinnati, Ohio. He's in Ohio. He starts a Christian publication, like a pamphlet. And he's selling pamphlet, making a little money. Eventually, he winds down south, and he comes to Nashville. Nashville is a burgeoning town on the Cumberland River. He's ministering to all those sailors on Broad Street. Well, he gets down there, and eventually they establish the Methodist Church in Gallatin up here on the square. So 1874, he starts the church. Their small congregation meets at the courthouse as they work on the church across the street. Well, 1874, the church finally opens. He moves over there. He's the founding minister of that church. Well, a few months goes by, and Cordelia stops coming to church. By this time, his children are grown. They stay in Massachusetts. But Cordelia, she's right there with her husband, leading the church. Well, the parishioners are asking, hey, how's Miss Merrill doing? Is she okay? Oh, no, Cordelia, she's sick this week. The following week, Cordelia is not at church. Oh, hey, how's Miss Merrill doing? Oh, she's still under the weather. Well, 3 months goes by. Sherman goes to the police. Hey, I need you to come see about my wife. The authorities go to his house and find that Cordelia has been dead for over 3 months. Her body is decomposed so badly they can't perform an autopsy. So a lot of people are asking what's going on over at the Methodist Church. Well, Sherman, he sticks with it for a few more weeks, but eventually some folks from Broad Street in Nashville come to Gallatin looking for him. Old Sherman Merrill's run up a tab in the saloons and the houses of ill fame where he's been visiting the ladies. They want their money. So like before, Sherman Merrill bounces. He goes back to the Midwest. I found an old newspaper report where he went back to Massachusetts and he was ministering for a Presbyterian church, but they found out that he was moonlighting as a Baptist preacher at a few towns over when he wasn't ministering to that congregation. So Sherman, he got found out. He bounced around a little bit more. He went to Georgia. He passed away in Georgia, and he was buried with military honors. But it's just really, really wild that this big, lavish, beautiful church there on the square in Gallatin was founded by a con man who had a thing for children. Awful, awful guy. So, but there is a ghost story. If you've seen this Methodist church, it's beautiful, the steeple. It's one of the biggest, grandest buildings there on the square. So in the 70s, there was a funeral parlor back behind the church. The church bought the building and made it part of the church, and they use it for their children's wing where they keep the kids. Well, this lady was telling me that one day she's walking down the children's wing where this old funeral parlor is, and a cup jumped out at her. It didn't just jump out at her, but it jumped at me like an L shape, like jumped out and took a hard right trying to hit her. I had another guy tell me that he was there for a chaperone event, and he went out to the old funeral parlor to get some supplies. So as he got the supplies he needed, he's walking back down the hall, and he hears this whistling behind him and some footsteps. Turns around, nothing's there. What would you do, Lee?
Run.
That's what he did. So he ran back upstairs, and he didn't go back downstairs. He wasn't a chaperone no more. So I had a booth for Squarefest right there in front of Methodist Church years ago. Gallatin has a town festival. I was selling books, talking to people. In the event, this lady walked out, and she said, hey, you do the ghost tours, right? Yes, ma'am, I do the ghost tour right there in Gallatin. And she said, well, I work at night. We hear whispers. We hear voices, footsteps, just people talking. We know it's here. Nothing really nefarious, but we all know what's going on. So it's just another wild, weird wrinkle, and I didn't even get into the tunnels that run under Gallatin. They say there's an entrance there at the Methodist tunnels, the Methodist Church. I think that's a story for another day. But there are tunnels all under Gallatin as well as Springfield, Nashville. And
we do have other stories to go.
Oh, yeah. So just right down the street from the Methodist Church there on the corner, they used to have the Sindel House. And the Sindel House, it was kind of like the Opryland Hotel. It was like a Vegas casino. It was one of the nicest, grandest hotels in all of Sumner County. It was so nice, in fact, there was a guy named W.J. Smith who came from Alabama to get married at the Sumner House. So he came to Gallatin to get married because in Alabama it's illegal to marry your aunt. W.J. Smith.
Wait, what?
Yeah. W.J. Smith, his aunt became a widow. His uncle passed away. They start seeing each other, and they find out they cannot get married in Alabama, so he came to the Sumner House in Gallatin to get married. Yeah, go figure. But anyway, I told you it's a big, opulent place. A guy named Charlie Cobb was a barber there. They had a saloon. They had a barbershop. They had a restaurant. It's a hotel. Really nice. Well, one of Charlie's best customers was a guy named Walter Dodson. Walter was a very prominent guy in town. In fact, when Teddy Roosevelt visited Gallatin in 1907, he stayed with Walter at his house there on North Water. Well, Walter, he's hobnobbing with presidents. He's a doctor, Mason, big to-do guy.
Is that house still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right there across from the Dairy Beer air conditioning.
Carry on,
place.
my wayward son.
Yeah. Well, his wife, Anna, she comes to the barbershop occasionally to see Walter when he's there to get a shave or to get a haircut. Well, she's a younger lady, and Charlie Cobb's a handsome man, and they start flirting with one another. So eventually she comes up there to see Charlie when Walter's not there. So it becomes a thing. Walter doesn't know about it, but Charlie, his barber, is seeing his wife. So this happens for a few months, and eventually they decide to break things off. Walter moves to Nashville, opens up a barbershop near Union Station, and Anna, she goes about her life as almost single mother, raising 2 children. So eventually, one night, Walter goes out drinking with his brother-in-law, Anna's brother, and he said, "Hey, you hear about the barber fooling around with my sister?" "What?"
Ooh.
So Walter goes home in a huff. "What's going on? Are you messing around with the barber?" "Oh, honey, it was a brief little thing. It's over. I swear on to be with you. I love you, honey."
Uh-huh.
So Walter, he's crying. He's like, "I love you. We have children. Let's just make this work." So Anna, she's like, she tosses and turns all night. Walter's like, "We're going to get this figured out. We'll talk to the preacher. We'll get some counseling." Well, that night she tosses and turns. She wakes up the next morning. She walks to the Gallatin Depot, takes the first train to Nashville. She walks 2 blocks to where Charlie's cutting hair. She walks in the barbershop, pulls out a gun. "You destroyed my family. You've ruined my name." Bang, bang, bang. 3 gunshots. So she walks outside, sets the gun on the ground, and police come arrest her. So in 1913, she's going to be the first lady ever hanged in the state of Tennessee if she's found guilty of murder.
Oh, my God.
So I told you, Walter wanted to try to make things work with his wife.
Yeah, she didn't agree.
Well, he hires the best attorneys in Nashville to get her off of this because, he don't want her to hang. They have 2 children together. So facing these murder charges, she has her time in court. The jury announces their findings. She's found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. 5 days in jail.
That's all they gave her.
That's all they gave her. They tried to argue that, what happened was, supposedly, the scuttlebutt around town, Walter and his attorneys worked their connections through the Church of Christ. There was a lot of members of the jury that went to Church of Christ.
Yeah.
And they tried to work the angle, hey, she's a mother, you can't hang her. So, but yeah, a lot of weird, wild stories, and now it's a child support office, and I've been told by a lot of guys on my ghost tours, that child support office is the scariest building in all of Gallatin.
Been there.
Yeah. But they've torn that building down. It's now the child support office, and something they told me that this lady, whatever's there, it's not really malevolent, it's more mischievous. They'll hang up decorations for Christmas or St. Patrick's Day, and each morning they'll find them laying in the floor. So one day they had this new hire come in, they told her about the ghost, she's kind of freaked out about it. So they went to the Spencer's Gifts and bought some kind of a USB alarm clock. They plugged it in the computer, and each morning at 8:30 it would go off, go meh, like a sheep out of the blue. So the lady knew about the ghost story. So the lady who set the alarm, she didn't come in that morning. She wanted to just kind of mess around with her coworker. So the coworker goes in the morning. She's working. 8:30. The girl starts freaking out. The lady come in a few minutes after that. When she walked in the child support office, the lady upstairs was on her knees holding hands with her husband praying.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
She was so unnerved by that sheep or goat, whatever it was, alarm that they set to fool with it.
Now, how did that alarm sound again?
Or something like that. It's just my interpretation. It could have been a little bit different. I don't really know. But yeah, I've got 2 books on Gallatin, Southern Ghost Stories, Ghost of Gallatin 2. You can find them on Amazon.com. My latest book, Southern Ghost Stories, Tennessee Tales 2, came out. There's all kinds of ghost stories in Tennessee, and I did Tennessee Tales 1, when was it, 3 years ago, and it's got the Bell Witch, it's got like Ripavilla, Spring Hill, I told you the story earlier. Southern Ghost Stories, Tennessee Tales 2 has stories from like Mount Juliet, Columbia, Lebanon. There's just so many small towns all over the state, and I hear stories. The weird thing happens when you write books. Everybody comes to tell you the stories. I just make those, dig in when I can. I'm in the process of working on Tennessee Tales 3.
Okay.
But Tennessee Tales New it's now available, and I've got more books on the way later this year.
The name is Alan Searcy, y'all.
Southern Ghost Stories. And southernghoststories.com, or you can find me at alansearcy.com. And go to the Southern Ghost Stories Facebook page. Leave us some questions, comments.
Do it.
Southern Ghost Stories Instagram. I want to do a Q&A show here in the very near future. I think it'd be a lot of fun to hear from people and
yes, it would
get their questions and just kind of just spitball an episode and just have some fun with it.
That would be great, man. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and Facebook, Southern Ghost Stories, and check out my boy Lonesome Lee Bogan over here, his Facebook page.
Yeah, man. Well, my Facebook page is Lee Covington Bogan.
Okay.
I don't have a Lonesome Lee page. I should make one.
You should.
Just for the radio station.
Yeah, or for your paranormal investigations you're going to be
doing. Ooh.
So, and on Twitter, or it's X, I know I keep calling it Twitter, but I'm ATO Allen. I messed up when I made my handle years ago, but ATO Allen, ALLEN. But yeah, you check it back because we'll have a show each week and we'll have stuff on social media, and we have a good time with this. What do you think, Lee?
I think it's a great idea. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately, Alan.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Can't wait to do the next one.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Y'all come back.